The landscape of large-scale artificial intelligence and high-performance computing is increasingly defined by rack-scale systems designed to handle trillion-parameter models and exascale computations. Hello, my name is Ruben. I'd like to welcome you to Ruben Tech. For all of you out there who are returning visitors, I want to welcome you. If you're a subscriber, thank you for doing so. And if you haven't subscribed, please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It really helps the channel. Today, we're going into a deep dive on a tech duel, as I like to call it, between Nvidia's top offering system for a rack. That's the NVL72, which right now is equipped with the Grace Blackwell combo, the Grace Blackwell 200s. It has 36 of those, 2 Blackwell chips to each one, so 72 Blackwell chips in total. And we're going to compare it to Huawei's latest offering, the CM384. This uses the Ascend chip, which are not as powerful as Blackwell, but there are many more of them, okay? So let's go ahead and dive right into the report. This report provides a detailed technical comparison between two prominent contenders representing the forefront of US and Chinese technological approaches, the Nvidia GB200 NVL72 and the Huawei Cloud Matrix CA384. Both systems aim to deliver unprecedented power for AI training and inference, but they achieve this through fundamentally different architecture, philosophy, and engineering trade-offs. The Nvidia GB200 NVL72 embodies a strategy focused on maximizing the performance and energy efficiency of individual processing units. It integrates 72 state-of-the-art Nvidia Blackwell B200 GPUs with 36 Nvidia Grace GPUs within a single densely packed liquid-cooled rack. This approach leverages Nvidia's leadership in GPU architecture and its mature CUDA software ecosystem. In contrast, the Huawei Cloud Matrix 384 pursues system-level performance through massive parallelism. It interconnects 384 Huawei Ascend 910C accelerators, GPUs, which individually lag behind Nvidia's Blackwell generation across a sprawling 16-rack all-optical fabric utilizing a technology called LPO. This design emphasizes system-level interconnect innovation to compensate for lower per accelerator capabilities. Key technical differences stem directly from these contrasting strategies. The NVL72 features 72 powerful GPUs, while the CM384 employs 384 less potent ones. The disparity drives major differences in system power consumption, with the NVL72 estimated at approximately 120 to 145 kilowatts, and the CM384 consuming around 560 kilowatts maximum. Now, I would like to mention that later on we'll see that on average it looks like the CM384 is about 2.6 times the power consumption of the NVL72. Not spoiling it, but we will come across that later. Interconnect technologies are also diverge significantly. Nvidia utilizes this 5th generation NVL link primarily via copper within the rack to create a tightly integrated 72 GPU domain. As Jensen likes to say, he thinks of the entire rack as one giant GPU. Whereas Huawei implements a custom all-to-all optical mesh network spanning multiple racks. From a performance perspective, while Nvidia's Blackwell GPU significantly outperforms Huawei's Ascend 910C on a per-chip basis in compute, memory capacity, and bandwidth, the CM384 sheer scale allows it to claim higher aggregate system metrics in certain areas. Notably, Huawei reports nearly double the dense BF16 petaflops 300 versus 180, over 3.6 times the total HBM capacity, and over twice the total HBM bandwidth compared to the NVL72. However, this comes at the cost of dramatic lower power efficiency, with the CM384 exhibiting more than 2.3 times worse performance per watt than the NVL72 for BF16 operations, which is kind of the standard right now in AI training. Furthermore, the NVL72 leverages the mature and widely adopted NVIDIA AI software stack, CUDA, AI Enterprise, Base Command Manager. These are all proprietary systems to NVIDIA. While the CM384 relies on Huawei's developing Ascend ecosystem, Khan and Mindspar, which are well-developed systems, but nowhere near the level of NVIDIA's AI software stack. They might be still 12 to 18 months behind on this. That's just my own personal opinion. Strategically, the CM384 represents a significant achievement for Huawei, demonstrating an ability to engineer highly competitive, large-scale AI systems despite facing technological restrictions and relying on complex supply chain workarounds for key components. It offers a powerful domestic alternative for the Chinese market. The NVL72 reinforces NVIDIA's global leadership, offering a balanced approach that emphasizes efficiency along cutting-edge performance, backed by a robust software ecosystem. Potential adopters must weigh the trade-offs between raw aggregate performance and memory versus power efficiency, infrastructure requirements, cooling, space, and power, and software ecosystem integrations. Now, if we go into the system overviews, the NVIDIA GB200 NVL72 versus the Huawei Cloud Matrix 384, we'll see that the NVIDIA, the positioning of it is presented as NVIDIA's premier rack-scale computing platform based on the Blackwell GPU architecture. It's explicitly designed to power the next generation of AI data centers, enabling real-time inference for trillion-parameter large language models, LLMs, and facilitating massive-scale AI training and complex HPC simulations. NVIDIA positions it as delivering exascale AI performance within a single physical rack. The core components here revolve around the tight integration of NVIDIA's latest Blackwell Tensor Core GPUs and its ARM-based Grace CPUs. These are coupled together in the fundamental building block known as the GB200 Grace Blackwell Superchip. The Blackwells by themselves are just called the B100 or B200. Interconnected via high-speed, coherent NVL-Link C2C technology, a full NVL72 rack combines numerous superchips with the sophisticated NVL-Link switch system fabric. Once again, Jensen likes to call this an entire GPU for the rack. The GB200 NVL72 represents the continuation and significant advancement of NVIDIA's dominant position in the AI accelerator market. It builds upon the success of previous generations like Hopper H100 and leverages the extensive and mature CUDA software ecosystem, which provides a substantial competitive advantage through widespread developer adoption and optimized libraries. Now, if we look at the Cloud Matrix 384, the CM384, the Cloud Matrix 384 is marketed as Huawei's most powerful AI computing system and a direct domestic competitor to high-end NVIDIA offerings like the GB200 NVL72, particularly within the Chinese market. Its primary focus is addressing the massive computational demands of large-scale AI model training. Huawei emphasizes system-level innovation and networking and optics as key differentiators. Core components, the CM384 system is built entirely around Huawei's own Ascend 910C AI accelerated chips, which I've covered on his channel a few times, deploying 384 of these units within a single system interface. These accelerators are interconnected via custom high bandwidth all optical network fabric. Excuse me, and that's called LPO, the technology that they use for that. Market development. The development and launch of the CM384 occur under significant constraints of U.S. export controls and sanctions, which restrict Huawei's access to leading-edge semiconductor manufacturing technologies and components. Consequently, the CM384 represents a major effort by Huawei in China to achieve greater self-sufficiency in critical AI hardware infrastructure. Its design relies on innovative system architecture and complex supply chain strategies, including sourcing TSMC fabricated wafers and Korean HBM memory through intermediaries or workaround to overcome these limitations. Compute architecture deep dive will be our next section. These fundamental differences in system philosophies between the NVL72 and CM384 are clearly reflected in their core computer architectures. Remember, once again, as we go through this, the NVL72 is built around more higher power individual compute units, whereas the CM384 is built around the philosophy of more of these chips just overall, even though they don't have as high of compute power. On NVIDIA GB200 NVL72, the GPU, the system integrates 72 NVIDIA Blackwell B200 GPUs, as we covered. The Blackwell architecture represents a significant leap, featuring 208 billion transistors per GPU manufactured on a custom TSMC 4-nanometer class processor. Remember, it's actually not 4 nanometers in size. That's just kind of like a generational statement now. Key architectural enhancements include, and I could go into that later if you want in a separate video, include a second-generation transformer engine optimized for LLM workloads, supporting the new low-precision formats like FP4 and FP6 for accelerated inference and training. That's just talking about the floating point that they use to represent the data when they train these models on it. So FP4 would be a 4-bit data unit. FP6 is a 6-bit data unit. It incorporates new tensor core with enhanced capabilities and introduces a dedicated hardware decompression engine capable of processing data at up to 800 gigabytes a second to alleviate bottlenecks in data analytics pipeline. Now the CPU is paired with, and that's called Grace, is paired with the GPUs are 36 Nvidia Grace CPUs. Each Grace CPU features 72 ARM Neoverse V2 cores, resulting in a total of 2,592 high-performance CPU cores per NVL72 rack, and that's absolutely nuts. The Grace CPU is designed specifically for data center workloads, emphasizing high performance and memory bandwidth while offering significant energy efficiency improvements compared to contemporary x86 server processor. You can just think of these as the managers, right? So if you have the Grace Blackwells, the Blackwells which are doing the heavy lifting, right? These would be the managers overseeing the tasks that the Blackwells are doing. Node design, GB200 superchip. The architectural foundation is the GB200 Grace Blackwell superchip. This model tightly integrates one Grace CPU with two Blackwell GPUs using Nvidia's proprietary NVL-link chip-to-chip C2C interconnect. The high-speed 900 gigabytes a second bidirectional link enables a cached, coherent, unified memory space across the CPU and its interconnected GPUs, simplifying programming for applications that require close CPU-GPU collaboration and large memory footprints. An NVL72 rack typically comprises 18 compute trays based on Nvidia MGX reference design, with each tray housing two GB200 superchips, thus two Grace CPUs and four Blackwell GPUs per tray. The Huawei Cloud Matrix 384. The accelerator employs 384 Huawei Ascend 910C AI accelerators. The Ascend 910C is reported to be a dual chiplet design, conceptually similar to some offerings from AMD and Nvidia. Manufacturing relies primarily on a TSMC 7nm processor, accessed through workloads due to sanctions, although SMIC's 7nm capabilities also notice a potential, albeit less utilized source. Critically, the performance of a single Ascend 910C is substantially lower than that of Nvidia Blackwell B200. As I've said before, and this channel is actually more comparable to that of a H100, slightly below that. Estimated at roughly 1/3 the BF16 performance. The available technical documentation focuses heavily on the Ascend 910C accelerators and the system interconnect. The details regarding the specific type, quantity, or configuration of the host CPUs paired with the Ascend accelerators within the CM384 compute nodes are not provided in the sources that I analyzed today. I just wanted to bring that up because if you're wondering what is the comparable unit on this compared to Grace, we don't really know because there's no documentation that's telling us what it is. But I would imagine that they have something like this. And remember that chips like this are more common in the ARM section than such things as GPUs. The node designs, the CM384 system is physically distributed across 16 standard data center racks. And what I meant by that last comment is that you wouldn't expect to need something revolutionary in that retrospect, because just managing the workload isn't that tough of a task. 12 of these are designed as compute racks, each housing 32 Ascend 910C accelerators. The remaining 4 racks are dedicated to housing extensive optical switching infrastructure required for the scale-up interconnect fabric. This is what they're putting all their eggs in their basket on, is this fact right here. Okay, those LPO networks. The precise arrangement within each compute rack, such as the number of accelerators per server, blade, or node card, and their connection host-to-host CPUs is not specified in available materials either. The architectural comparison reveals contrasting scaling philosophies. Nvidia achieves performance gains through significant advancements within the GPU itself, process node architecture features like the transformer and tensor core improvements, and the tight CPU-GPU integration via NVL-link C2C, keeping accelerator count per rack relatively modest at only 72. Huawei, facing limitations in accessing the cutting-edge chip technology, adopts the strategy of just pure brute force scaling. It compensates for the lower performance of the Ascend 910C by deploying a much larger number of them, 384, thus the 384 in the name, and relying heavily on a sophisticated large-scale system interconnect to aggregate the performance. The approach inherently necessitates a significantly larger physical footprint and power budget, but allows Huawei to achieve competitive system-level throughput metrics despite the underlying chip disadvantage. This reliance on quantity over per-unit quality places immense pressure on the efficiency and scalability of the CM384's interconnect and software stack to effectively harness the power's 384 accelerator. And so then we have this table here, which is going to go through, it's going to mention this stuff, right? As far as what we know from all the sources I could find, okay? We're going to go on. And we're going to talk about the memory subsystem analysis. The memory hierarchy, including capacity, bandwidth, and accessibility, is critical for feeding data to the compute units and large-scale AI systems. Both the NVL72 and CM384 both substantial memory resources, but again reflect different design choices. The Nvidia NVL72, each of the 72 Blackwell B200 GPUs is equipped with 192 gigabytes of HBM3E memory. That results in total system-wide GPU HBM capacity of 13.8 terabytes. The use of HBM3E provides very high bandwidth, with each GPU delivering 8 terabytes a second. Aggregated across all 72 GPUs, the total HBM bandwidth reaches 576 terabytes a second. CPU memory, the 36 Grace CPUs contribute significantly to the system's overall memory pool. Each Grace CPU supports up to 480 gigabytes of LPDDR5X memory. Could you imagine if you had a laptop or like a desktop that had that kind of memory on it? That would be absolutely amazing. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the report, but it just, in my head, I was thinking about that. This amounts to total system CPU memory capacity of approximately 17 terabytes, okay? Oh, wow, that's amazing. The aggregate bandwidth for this LPDDR5X memory is substantial, reaching up to 18.4 terabytes a second system-wide. And in the unified and accessible memory, a key feature enabled by the GB200 SuperLeak NVL Link C2C Interconnect is memory coherency. This allows the Grace CPU and its two directly connected Blackwell GPUs to access each other's memory as a single unified address space. The NVL Link switch system extends interconnectivity across all 72 GPUs in a rack, effectively presenting an entire 13.8 terabyte of memory and 17 terabytes of LPDDR5X, totaling around 31 terabytes as a large-scale accessible memory pool managed by the Interconnect fabric. Sorry. My throat. This large, fast memory pool is crucial for accommodating trillion parameter models. So here, this is what I was referencing. Jensen, again, he likes to call the entire unit one GPU. This is why you can do that. Any GPU on here can access any other GPU's memory. Okay, it's just one pool, essentially. The Huawei Cloud Matrix 384 utilizes 384 Ascend 910C accelerators, each equipped with 128 gigabytes of HBM, reported to be the older HBM2E standard, which is what we'd expect. Despite the lower capacity per accelerator compared to Blackwell, the sheer number of accelerators results in a massive total HBM capacity of 49.152 terabytes. Almost 50 terabytes. I mean, basically 50 terabytes. This figure aligns closely with claims that the CM384 offers 3.6 times the aggregate HBM capacity of the NVL72. Accelerated memory bandwidth, each Ascend 910C provides 3.2 terabytes of memory bandwidth from its HBM2E stacks. That's absolutely phenomenal. Multiplied across all 384 accelerators, this yields an impressive aggregate system bandwidth of 1,228.8 terabytes a second. This supports the claim of the CM384 having 2.1 times the memory bandwidth of the NVL72. Okay, now CPU memory, as noted previously, we don't know, unfortunately. Let me update my slide. We don't know the CPU on here, so I'm unable to comment on this. The memory subsystem comparison reveals a clear trade-off. Huawei achieves this superior aggregate HBM capacity and aggregate HBM bandwidth by deploying a vast number of accelerators equipped with older, lower capacity, lower bandwidth HBM2E. Nvidia utilizes fewer accelerators but equips them with cutting-edge, higher capacity, high bandwidth HBM3, while the CM384's larger total HBM pool might theoretically accommodate larger models or data sets entirely within HBM. The lower per accelerator bandwidth could potentially become a bottleneck for certain memory-intensive computations compared to the NVL72. Furthermore, NVIDIA's NVL Link C2C provides a tightly integrated coherent memory space between the CPU and GPUs within each superchip, potentially simplifying programming models for workloads that benefit from shared access to both HBM and system DRAM. The effectiveness of CM384's massive memory pool hinges on the efficiency of its interconnect fabric and software stack and managing data movements across the 384 distributed memory spaces. Okay, so now we're going to look at the interconnect fabric comparison. Let me go ahead and update the slide. Where is that? Within each GB200 superchip, the NVL Link interface provides a high bandwidth, 900 gigabytes a second, bidirectional low latency connection between the Grace CPU and its two Blackwell GPUs. NVIDIA employs its 5th generation NVL Link technology for communication between GPUs. Each Blackwell GPU features 1.8 terabytes a second, a bidirectional NVL Link bandwidth, The NVL72 utilizes an NVL link switch system comprising 9 NVL link switch trays within a single rack. Each switch tray offers 144 NVL link ports operating at 100 gigabytes a second. This system creates a fully connected, non-blocking fabric linking all 72 Blackwell GPUs in a single NVL link domain. This allows any GPU to communicate directly with any other GPU at the full 1.8 terabytes a second speed. I've been emphasizing that over and over because I find it to be absolutely incredible. The total aggregational bidirectional bandwidth provided by the NVL links fabric is 130 terabytes a second. The external networking for communication between racks, scaling beyond 72 GPUs, because obviously you're going to hook multiple ones of these up. The NVL72 integrates high-performance network interface cards, NICs. Options include Nvidia's Connect X8 Super NICs or Bluefield 3 data processing units, DPUs. This supports the latest networking standard, including Nvidia's Quantum X800 InfiniBand, as I mentioned earlier, and Spectrum X Ethernet, capable of speeds up to 800 gigabytes a second per NIC. The total scale-up bandwidth of this site is 28.8 terabytes a second unidirectional. Now, the Huawei Cloud Matrix 384, remember Huawei was a networking company first, and this is where they really excelled with this unit. So its defining feature of CM384 is this large-scale interconnect fabric connecting all 384 Ascend 910C accelerators. It implements a massive all-to-all topology using an entirely optical network, no copper. This requires an exceptionally large number of optical transceivers, specifically 6,912 400G LPOs are needed for the full 16-rack systems. LPOs are chosen likely for the lower power consumption compared to traditional DSP-based optics, making such a large-scale optical fabric more feasible. No copper interconnects are mentioned for the scale-up fabric either. The aggregate bandwidth reported for the CM384 is substantial, reflecting the scale of the optical fabric. Scale-up bandwidth within the 384 accelerator domain, 1,075.2 terabytes a second unidirectional. This represents the total communicational capacity connecting the accelerators across the 16 racks via the dedicated switch racks. Scale-out bandwidth. So first one, scale up, excuse me. Now this is scale out if we're going to externally network. 153.6 terabytes a second unidirectional. This significantly higher scale-out bandwidth compared to NVL72 suggests a design optimized for connecting multiple CM384 pods together to form even larger superclusters. So this is where they are clearly beating the NVL72, is in the networking of multiple of these. This interconnect strategy highlights a fundamental design divergence. Nvidia optimizes for density and low latency within a single rack using high-speed copper-based NVL link for a 72 GPU domain. This approach simplifies deployment within the standard rack footprint but limits the scale-up domain size. Huawei embraces optical technology to achieve a much larger scale-up domain, 384 accelerators, spanning multiple racks. This prioritizes raw aggregate bandwidth and scalability potential, but introduces the complexities of managing a vast optical fabric, thousands of transceivers, and potentially higher communication latencies due to the multi-rack distances involved, i.e. if I hook up 10 of these racks, one's going to be how many feet away from the other or how many meters away from the other one. The reliability and lower power consumption of such a large optical, and you might think that might not matter, but it actually does. The reliability and power consumption of such a large optical network, even with LPOs, remains critical considerations. Not only Nvidia had previously explored and reportedly decided against producing a similar, albeit smaller, 256 H100 GPU optically interconnected system due to concerns about cost, power, and reliability associated with extensive optical transceivers and multiple network tiers. Huawei's CM384 design thus represents a bold commitment to optical interconnects at an unprecedented scale, driven by the necessity to aggregate performance from a large number of less powerful accelerators. This design strongly reflects the principle that especially when dealing with limitations at the chip level, the system architecture and interconnect become absolutely paramount. The CM384's significantly higher scale-out bandwidth also points towards an architecture explicitly designed for building extremely large multi-pod clusters. Okay. So now we're going to look at, I forgot to go here. So this was what I just covered. Now we're going to look at the, is this it? Or am I sorry, I think I missed. I got these two backwards. This slide should have been the previous one. So we're going to go back to this one. So this is going to go ahead and just look at the performance of these. I could read them out, but they're right there on the screen for you to look at. And so you can just see that the performance data for the Huawei, they're focused primarily on the BF16. And I do want to say there is a caveat to the Huawei's because these are all performance metrics referred to us from Huawei. So we'll have to wait till we have real world testing to see where they're at. But if they do live up to this is absolutely incredible for the limitations they've been having to deal with, okay? And so the next thing we're gonna do, excuse me, is we're gonna look at, yes, right here. The starkest contrast between the systems is the power consumption. Okay, so let's come over here. System power, 120 kilowatts to 145 kilowatts. The Huawei 559 kilowatts to 560 kilowatts. Claims 25x better energy efficiency compared to H100 for specific LLM inference workloads. And BF16 dense efficiency, approximately 0.81 watts per teraflop. This is what we actually care about. Calculated as 1,241 teraflops a kilowatt hour, using 180 petaflops per 145 kilowatts. BF16 dense efficiency, approximately 1.87 watts per teraflop. Okay, so you have a higher power usage there. Calculated as 536 teraflops a kilowatt, using 300 petaflops per 560 kilowatts, okay? So the power comparison, the efficiency is 2.3 times worse than NVL72 on a teraflop basis. The total, watts to teraflop basis, the total system power draw is roughly 3.9x to 4.1x higher than NVL72. Now remember, you can't compare the total system because obviously you're getting more compute out of it. So we got to go on a per watt basis. That's what matters, 2.3x. In conclusion, the Nvidia GB200, NVL72, and Huawei Cloud Matrix 384 stand as powerful rack scale solutions for the AI era. Yet they embody fundamentally different design philosophies shaped by technological capabilities, market access, and strategic priorities. Nvidia leverages its continued dominance in semiconductor technology and mature software ecosystems to deliver the GB200 NVL72, a highly performant and remarkably power-efficient single rack system that pushes the boundaries of GPU architecture. Huawei, facing restrictions on accessing leading-edge components, demonstrates impressive system-level engineering with the Cloud Matrix 384 by interconnecting a massive number of SN910C accelerators via ambitious all-optical fabric. Huawei achieves superior aggregate metrics in BF16 compute and memory capacity bandwidth, albeit at the significant cost of drastically high power consumption and lower efficiency. The market impact of these systems reflect their origins and target audience. The GB200 NVL72 is set to be the global standard for high-end AI infrastructure, reinforcing NVIDIA's leadership position. Its balance of performance, efficiency, and software support make it attractive across diverse deployment scenarios worldwide. While the Cloud Matrix 384 is technically impressive in its scale, it serves primarily as a testament to China's drive for technological self-sufficiency in AI hardware. It provides a vital, high-performance domestic alternative to restricted NVIDIA products for Chinese enterprises and cloud providers. However, its extreme power requirement, potential costs, and reliance on workarounds for components and less mature software stack will likely limit its competitiveness outside of China mainland. For potential adopters, the decision between the systems where a choice exists hinges on specific priorities and constraints. Now, I wrote that because obviously outside of, like in the West, you can't use Huawei because of sanctions. Organizations prioritizing power efficiency and leveraging an existing CUDA ecosystem requiring strong inference performance or operating in space-constrained environments will favor the NVIDIA GB200 NVL72. Organizations within China, obviously, are going to be seeking the highest possible aggregate BF16 throughput and memory capacity for massive training tasks, and will be looking likely at the Huawei Cloud Matrix 384 because they're unable to get their hands on the NVL72. However, looking ahead, the competition between these two companies' approaches underscore the increasing importance of holistic system design, and companies seeing not just a processor, but also the interconnect, memory and subsystem, power delivery, cooling, and software stack. NVIDIA is expected to continue advancing its GPU architecture onto future process nodes. 3 nanometer and 2 nanometer nodes have been mentioned, while refining system integrations. Huawei will likely focus on improving its Ascend accelerator performance with a successor like the Ascend 910D and maturing its CAN MindSport ecosystem, likely leveraging advancements in domestic semiconductor manufacturing facilities like SMIC. The trajectory of both companies will continue to shape the high-scale landscape of AI infrastructure globally. And in my final note, I would like to say that Huawei has done absolutely amazing if you consider the situation it's under. But for now, Nvidia is the clear leader in this space. That's what I have for you today. If you like this kind of content, please hit the like and subscribe button down below, and I'll see you later.